So, good morning, everybody. Today is Saturday. All right. So, I just keep plugging away. There's so much to talk about. There's so much to do. There's so much to think about. I mean, that's the joy of being by yourself, is you think about stuff. And if you have the means, you write about stuff. If you have the means, you read stuff. I mean, there is no shortage of things to do in this world. Or you can go get distracted and just let life pass you by. But I like to take the bull by the horns and steer it in whatever direction I want, because I can't let somebody else dictate who I am. I can't let society tell me what I should do or not do when it comes to defining my own life. And so while I have parameters and laws to work within, I can work within the laws and the parameters because they're there for a reason. Not only to keep us safe, but to give us a rule book that we all must abide by. And then we can find a way to discover and to develop, create, convert, whatever you want to call it. And we give people the opportunity, we give them the option to make their own choices. Because I'll tell you, when you're a kid, you don't get any choices. That's why I don't want to be a kid in this world. Because now that I know that there's so many more choices in what parents give their kids, I wouldn't want to be enslaved by a parent who is really dogmatic and very legalistic and so tunneled. Because that would then blind so much of the world of opportunity. Okay, when I was given the choice, either food service or go to college, McDonald's or go to college, that's such a narrow world. I can only imagine other households where you can only do this or believe in this or practice this, and that's it. Either left wing or right wing, or you're some kind of religion and you have to do this, and this. And then that blinds that child to so much of the world out there. And do children deserve to be given choices? Well, there are specific things you have to follow. You have to go to school and whatever that school is going to, teach you in your community. And you have to look both ways before crossing the street. And you got to get up in the morning and take care of your responsibilities. But when it comes to a career, when it comes to religion, I mean, you could explore all different religions. Do you have to be tunneled in one religion, two religions? I mean, I guess that's up to the parent. But I don't know if I even want to put anyone in religion if I had a kid, because I wouldn't want them to get tunneled in that way, because that would then blind them to so much opportunity. And it also could develop really aggressively discriminatory, very discriminatory people when you put them in a very legalistic religion. And so, so again, I wouldn't want to be a kid in this world, but right now I'm looking at what I want the title of my new book, because we know that this book is called Another Arm of the Hydra, The Undefined Life, right? And so I'm kind of like now going back to what I was taught with this course in San Francisco when I was 19, 20, 21, and even in 2000s, in my early 30s, late 20s, cleaning the slate. That's what I was taught, in that course, was cleaning the slate, at least intellectually. But we know that intellectually also has to do with physiologically. And if you can't get yourself physiologically cleaned out, and I don't mean detox and all that stuff, but you can't start from scratch physiologically, then even though you intellectually may learn things, your body has memories. And if your body has a lot of traumatic memories, no matter what you learn up here, this is going to rule, because this is what your gut really does control a lot. You can try to control your gut with your brain, but they both work together. And when people are so compromised, as they become more intolerant, as they age out in the system, it won't matter what you've learned up here, because down here is now what's in control. And that's why I say, when people allow those evil spirits to come into their body and control them and possess them, then I don't care how smart you are overtaken by the evil spirits. Okay. And so you really have to bring your gut and your brain. So now I'm taking what I learned to the biophysical level, where not only do you kind of start over again up here by transitioning off the old world, and you also start over again in your gut. And the first thing that we did was the J juice, but that wasn't the last thing. The J juice was not the end all be all. That was what woke up the immune system to make it work the way it's supposed to. But then you had to finally get off the J juice, transition off of it, not use it against your symptoms. Then you had to actually reintroduce yourself to the food supply, all the food supply, not just certain aspects of it, not politicize it, not religiousify it, okay? But you had to understand the benefits of meat, milk, cheese, eggs, fruits and vegetables, carbs, gluten, and sugars, and salt or sodium, and collagen, which is in the meat. And really, you don't need as many vegetables as people think. When I read somewhere that having so many vegetables in your diet makes you healthier, no, it doesn't. Maybe in a slower frequency environment and you're not really active, and so if you're not really active in a slower frequency environment, yeah, okay, eating a bunch of donuts and you have a slower metabolism because you're in a slower frequency and you're not really active. Yeah, in a slower frequency environment, slower, lifestyle, and your metabolism obviously is going to be slower. The vegetables and the light fats was the thing, right? But now we're in a high frequency environment. Like literally high frequency environment. And you can't get away with just eating vegetables. You can't. Okay, now you have to realize that now the world has changed. The particles of accelerated climate change is hotter. So many things are going on. And you're going to need every single thing in the food supply that you were bred to be against because of culture, religion, all that stuff. And people's intolerance to evolution. Now you have to relook and reintroduce yourself to the food supply and basically start over again. That's essentially what we're doing right now in this new world order that people are resisting, is you're starting over again. And so now once you realize that the J world, and this is the cleaning of the slate, when you think about it, this is understanding the world that you live in. That now we're taking all the religions and the plus and minuses of the religion. Understand that's a Rosicrucian order. They understand both sides. All the religions. You're going to understand now then the world that you're made up of. 69 trillion microbes. Okay? They're hydra, hydration, water. Life cannot be without water. That's where life is. It's water. Hydra. The energy. Physics, chemistry, biology, all that come together. And you're going to have to release the demons. And that's essentially what this book is showing you, is how I release the demons. So I'm not attacking life. I'm not herbalizing my life away with tinctures and cannabis and whatever else. I'm releasing the life. I'm not attacking cancers. I'm not even demonizing cancers. I'm not even demonizing, I don't know if I did in here. I don't remember, but cancer is life. Okay. In this book, I'm saying food is necessary. In this book, I'm saying that you have to understand your alimentary canal. You have to open your system, okay? Because a closed system, closed mind, you're going to supernova, super implode. You're going to implode. And that's what's going on. People are dying suddenly with heart attacks and strokes because they're not releasing the demons in an effective, safe way. They're attacking their body, developing more monsters, and they wonder why they can't get ahead of anything because of their practices in the medical holistic system, attacking the life in their body and attacking the life in their children's body. And so you will define your life. So the book I'm writing right now, that I'm in the process of developing, is that you will define your life. You will give birth to yourself. And so my current book cleans the slate if you have that opportunity. My next book, you define yourself. You define your own life. I'm in the process of defining my life. That's what I'm showing you guys, is that I can now release all those demons, release all the programming that my parents did to me, my friends, my family, my community, the world. And I'm defining my own life. Doesn't mean that my life is going to be your life, but at least now you know that you're not defined by what your parents told you who you were. You're not defined by what your friends and family told you who you were. And you're not defined by your occupation. That now you have the freedom to define yourself. And so I'm in the process of defining my life. It may not be your life, but now I can show people you can define your own life if you want. So then I'm saying the new world is cruelty-free. Cruelty-free life is a drug-free life too, and potentially even alcohol-free on some level. And that all food is the answer. And then an effective, uncruel release process is the answer to a peaceful world without rest and peace. And so now I'm defining the new world based upon what I want to see. Okay, now you all can define the way you want, and that's fine. Doesn't mean you and I are going to be aligned. I mean, if you're all about legalism to such a point where it's like pounding death in people's head, then, you know, we're not going to get along. And hey, go, that's fine. You can be the balance. You can take away your life and people around you and keep the balance so we don't have so many people taking up resources. But it doesn't mean I want to be converted to your death protocols and your death belief system, your death culture. And so then I'm saying this because I did that I showed a Facebook reel of a hermetic explanation of what religion is. And so I wanted to read, I didn't read this yesterday. I just kind of gave you a loose description of what that reel was. But the Rosicrucian order, so that reel about what religion has done as far as fear. And so I'm saying this explanation really is like the Rosicrucian order. So in the J world, you don't want to just descend or ascend, because that's kind of the premise of that reel that I shared, was that person was talking about ascension. And that's even in the whole Christ consciousness in that religion about ascension, and then also in the pagan or starseed or energy healing world. Everything's about ascension, energetic ascension, ascending to what? You're becoming so high, you're unreachable, unrelatable, and potentially even just pass away through your discovery because you're in the ayahuasca, ascending to the next level of consciousness, however you want to call it, playing with your chakras, okay? And so in the J world, you don't want to just descend, go to hell, right? Or ascend. You want to balance both. That's why I don't promote ascension or descension. Both end up in death. And then it is spiritually justified, because you can see all the justifications in all the different religions that ascension or descension is justified, and that could actually mean death. The end result is death. Okay? And so why would you promote that? Life is just life. It doesn't need to descend or ascend. I mean, you can gain intelligence. Does that mean I'm ascending? Not necessarily. I'm just gaining more intelligence. I'm now releasing the distractions that are in my body that's causing the confusion so I can make connections faster. I can make my own new neurological pathways and develop and create and develop. And really, when you think about it, the world is up in here. You figure the world out there came from up here. All of your land and the buildings and the occupations and the cultures and the belief systems, and then the landscaping. Everything came from somebody's mind up here, or a collective mind that then developed a business plan, a blueprint, and they went and developed it. You could say created it, converted it, whatever. But the world that you live in came from up here. That's the power that people don't realize. People don't use their mind because they were told never to really use their mind, only empty it and fill it with somebody else's belief system, somebody else's definition of what life is and what you should do with your life, and what evil is and what good is and what bad is and what healthy is or unhealthy. You were told every single fucking thing about your life from somebody else's intentions. So now we're in this new world where you can empty that vessel and be able to release those demons and then define your own life. Take the word pain and realize there's so many contexts to the word pain. You don't want someone putting their hands on you. You don't want someone else doing anything to you. But pain is necessary when you're trying to release the demons, but it doesn't have to be so painful all the time. Eventually, over time, the pain wanes, and it's not really pain. It's just energy that's being released, and it's manageable. But we have allowed somebody else to dictate how they want our body, minds, and spirits to be, even if it's at major deficits and a fraction of our potential. And so we're in a world that growth is always going to happen because the sun and the water and the nutrients develop growth. That's why there's turbo cancers and climate change, Because you can't stop growth, but people resist it and they attack it and they scoop it out and they surgically take it out and they herbalize it out. And so when you have growth, that's great, but it's also going to be painful, and it also means you have to release the things that are not necessary once the body figures out what's garbage and what's not. But you can't determine that because you've been given meanings by somebody else what garbage is. And I have to understand from a physiological level what garbage is and from a chemistry level, and find a way to discern what somebody else has told you because of their agenda in commodifying your body, mind, and spirit, and then realize that now it's time for you to define your life, define everything based upon not only dictionary definitions, but based upon your intention. Because the medical, holistic, allopathic, energy healing world's surgical system is not about promoting longevity. It's about managing your decline as humanely as possible. Because you already believe you should die someday. You already have that culture in place. You don't want to feel pain. You don't want to change. And so the system will give you absolution through the medical, holistic, energy healing world. But then you're not promoting life and you're not saving anyone's life. So that's where I want people to understand that don't pretend when you believe people should die someday that you're saving anyone's life. In politics, in religion, and in science world. That's really the bottom line. I don't care if you think that life is not precious. Stay in that world. Don't try to convert me. Okay? If you believe that people should not be in pain and not suffer, whatever that means, because you have your own predisposed issues and deficiencies, and so you think your suffering is so astronomical, and so no one should feel the way you should feel, then you have to remember that you're projecting. And so, hey, if people are that easily influenced by your taking away people's pain and saying that no one should suffer, if they're that easily influenced, not understand the other side of suffering, then yeah, they deserve whatever the fuck they get, and they can't complain. Because I'll tell you, those that are in the anti-V world that go to the hospitals all the time, even when they don't get a V, they go to the hospitals, but they have someone to blame. They don't ever want to suffer, ever. But they keep going to get remedies and surgeries and keep getting things silenced, and you can't silence life. You can't. Energy can't be created or destroyed, only converted. And so, yeah, eventually, if you don't want to die suddenly or suffer so much, maybe it's time to re-examine your practices and your belief system and taking away people's pain and your own pain all the time where you feel nothing. We're always in pleasure, under the influence. Because if you're under the influence, in pain all the time, and you're afraid of food, well, that's self-induced. You can't blame anyone but yourself for that. You can't even blame your parents anymore because they're gone. Now you have to be the one to take responsibility. If you can. If you can't, then you will find absolution. And so life is just life. It doesn't need to descend or ascend. You don't want to be so high and be unrelatable, or be so low and be unrecognizable. You want to fluctuate with the environment and stay alive. The journey in the J world. I had so many dreams, so many awakenings, so many realizations, and so much freedom. Every single time I was sick and I did not treat my sickness, I had another awareness, and I felt like I conquered the fucking world. And so it's about balance, okay? This is probably the best explanation representing where I'm coming from. And I'm still not spiritual promoting death as an absolution or preferred outcome. Believe me, if people can choose otherwise, they would not choose death, but they do. But they don't understand the laws of life and death, so they inadvertently choose death even when they think they're choosing life. That's the deception of the allopathic, the holistic, the energy healing world, and those under the ivermectins and doing all the herbs and extracts and cannabis. They think they're saving their life, when in reality, they're just trying to make their death process manageable because they can't handle the pain of life, because they're going to have to pay the sins of the Father. They're going to have to face everything they've done to themselves. Okay? And that's a hard pill to swallow, literally. So that's the deception of humanity. But since death is so lucrative, because you get money and power and wealth and pleasure, people choose death because the path to death is so pleasurable. But then it doesn't. Once you've exhausted all the pleasure out of the path to death, which you're seeing now, people are now suffering so much, the last part of your life will be so painful. And those are the major diagnosable conditions that can't even be treated. See, treatment is taking away your pain, taking away the body's ability to release and take on substance. That's why I'm like, if you can handle not being treated, don't be treated. But if you have to be treated, fine. But sometimes the energy of the pain will be so much and you don't have what it takes to deal with that energetic pain because you're not feeding yourself. You have a compromised vital organs. And so that's when the system has to go and take away the pain if they can without destroying you at the same time. That's up to a doctor and a surgeon and those professionals to figure out if treating you is going to save your life or kill you. But you should not have anyone on Facebook telling you how to treat your pain, because all those herbs and extracts and tinctures and detoxes will actually could take away your life like that. But you know how that is. It's not really regulated. People are selling their tinctures and their cannabis and all that, and someone is just, on their last legs. At this point, now there's nothing that anyone could do. If the medical system can't touch you, then the holistic can, and then they'll just finish the job. That's essentially what people are looking at. When oncology and those treatments do not work anymore, then it's just keeping someone comfortable on their way out the door. It's grim. That's morbid, but that's a fucking reality that I don't want to ever face in my world. People will face it out there. They are. And they're not liking it, and they're suffering. And so then you hope for it died suddenly because they don't have what it takes to deal with the pain of bringing their life back. And I'm not trying to be cold, but that's the reality. Dying suddenly, was a stigma. But when you think about the suffering when you can't even treat the diseases because the treatments would just destroy you, then you just hope for it died suddenly so that person is out of their pain. So I get it. But when you see, the J world's about those that are looking at the mistakes that people have made around them. They're looking at their parents. They're looking at the future and the past, and they don't like what they're seeing, and they want to now figure out how to not get to that how not to end up that way. If they have a chance to redirect, they'll deal with the pain. They'll deal with that. They'll eat the food. They'll reconstruct their mind and relearn things. And then they now have freed themselves from all of that potential inevitability. But those are like, hey, I don't care, my life is my life. I'm not going to fucking change. I'm not going to learn anything because I want to do whatever I want to do. No one's going to tell me the government sucks. Everyone that thinks differently sucks. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Okay, fine. Go have at it. Have fun. But don't come crying to me when you get to a point where you can't even take away the pain anymore with all your drugs. Don't come crying to me and blame me for your fucking shit. Because you were given every opportunity to redirect and face it when it was manageable 10 years ago, 7 years ago. But no, you're like, no one's going to fucking tell me, Jillian, you're stupid. You're this, you're that, you're traumatized. You're a trauma victim. And I'm a right-wing Christian, pro-Trump. And you ain't can tell me shit because you're left-wing this. I never said I was left-wing or anything. Okay. And so then now they're at the point where now they're either going to die suddenly or they're going to be suffering exponentially. And they will be blaming someone. But that's the world that we live in. So that's why we have a surveillance society. That's why we're in an Orwellian society. Because people are like that. They will not change. And when the rubber meets the road and they don't want to face the music, then they go and blame everyone. And they get mad at everyone. And then they put off indicators of destruction. And then the FBI, the CIA, Interpol, all those will then monitor. I mean, they're not going to do pre-crime, but because you can't do that. So we have to let them act out and hope that you're not in the vicinity of someone who is now finally at the last legs, the end of their line, and they're going to destroy people around them. And so that's why staying home and staying safe and listening for indicators around people around you to make sure that they're safe and your community is safe. Okay? And so that's the deception of humanity. But since death is so lucrative, because you get money and power and wealth and pleasure, people choose death because the path of death is so pleasurable until it's not. And that's their choice. And they get addicted to the path to death. So when I experienced COVID many times since 2019, every single untreated sickness was an awakening, and I was feeding it steak. When I had those headaches, the reason why that steak was so amazing, because it was the collagen. It was not only the proteins, but it was the collagen. I was able to help reconnect the pathways and release the demons. I didn't do milk at the time, but I mean, I was, drinking milk and coffee and cream, or I guess. I don't remember exactly everything back then. But I'm sure I was, I think I was milk with cereal. Because at that time, my dog was also drinking milk at the time. Okay, so I seen things, felt things, dreamed of things. I became stronger in body, mind, and spirit. I know the difference between life and death. And I don't fall for all the stories in politics, in all the religions, as far as, oh yeah, death is so lucrative, death is great, you're going to go and who knows where. And all the science dogmas, or the spirituality, or the star seed stuff, or all the ascension, or all the love, okay? I don't fall for the stories of promoting death through love and compassion and empathy and unity. I'm not playing that game. I'm not playing the game of promoting death and covering it up with sticky, sweet honey that's antibiotic and dress it up as if it's something desirable, which you see so many people are out there dressing death up as something desirable. I don't fall for those stories. So I know the power of the mind. My method not only saved my life, but it also broke the spell. And believe me, breaking the spell is not what you think. Most people will stay under the spell because breaking the spell would make them question everything about the world they live in. And so, yeah, I mean, the J world is not just drinking J juice and you get an awakening. Oh, let me tell you, when I was sick, I was pulling out that shit out of my ass. Literally pulling out the shit and blowing my nose and sneezing and resting and eating. It wasn't just, oh yeah, take a few J juice and take some milk and everything is great. Oh no, I had to work to get the fucking demons out of me. What do you mean I had to work? When you had to blow your nose so hard and you're on the toilet and you're not just grunting, you are actually finding ways to get up in there and get it out because it's stubborn. People think it's just like, oh yeah, go get a laxative or go do some salt water. No. That you have to now know how to understand your alimentary canal on such a personal level that most people haven't even figured out because of shame around all their different openings have been not only shamed but also sexualized. And so then they have a stigma. That was the intention. That was the gods, the death gods that were programming humans to be afraid of their every single orifice, to not explore every single orifice, not understand their own body, mind, and spirit, to always give their body away to strangers, to science, to strangers. That they allow strangers to put their hands in them and do all that stuff. We were taught all that. Now you have to unteach yourself that you have the power to understand how to develop pressure to push everything out through up here and down there. And sometimes you have to actually train your alimentary canal to open up when you want it to open up, to release the demons so those demons don't metastasize and turn into something deadly. But I'll tell you that when people have been so shamed through sexuality and been so shamed through ignorance because they're like, oh no, you don't know any better. You don't have the capacity to know any better. You should only see a professional when it comes to somebody going into your body through those different orifices. And then if they can't go through those orifices, then they have to go and surgically traumatize you. And so we're going to do experiments on you and you're going to like it and you're going to sign on the dotted line because we're going to tell you all the side effects, but you're so desperate. You're going to sign the dotted line and you're going to sort of skim through the side effects, but you're like, hey, 1%, 5%, 10% chance that you might experience this, this, and this. And like, that's the deception. So if there's a 15% chance that you're going to end up in a certain way, people take that risk. Well, you could be every person could be the 15% chance. Statistics can be so deceptive. I mean, they obviously have to show proof that that's how they got to that percentage. But why would you do surgery on it? Why would you allow anyone to go and traumatize your body? No different than why would you allow someone to go and traumatize your dog's body? when it comes to the veterinary system. But then people have been desensitized towards trauma and death. It's like death and trauma is like just drinking water to people. I will never get desensitized to trauma. I will never get desensitized to death. That's why with my dog, it was such an aggressive time. It was such an emotional time for all of us. Because I didn't want her to die, but I was willing to suffer myself and allow her to suffer for a little bit to figure out if we can get over it. And then we realized that, yeah, the veterinary system did such a number on her as far as the trauma that she had to revisit that trauma of the veterinary system. And so again, she had to pay for the sins of her father and mother. And that those sins could be so great that, yeah, die suddenly or putting her down was the only way for everyone to stop suffering. So we're not all freaking out. And people were freaking out. Oh, believe me, I understand. But now you see what the medical system does to you and what happens when you want to become whole again. You're going to have to revisit that trauma and deal with the pain of not only what was initially there, but then what they did to you in the surgery center. And so you hope that if some of you haven't had all those surgeries or are contemplating on getting a surgery, you really think it's going to be worth it when you finally want to turn your life around and you don't want to keep revisiting the same thing, because every single time you get a surgery, you get a pill, a paracetamol, and detox, you're going to have to revisit those traumas again. But hopefully the solution, the cure, isn't worse than the actual problem. But the solution, the cure is, and especially when you're doing major trauma to yourself. I'm not saying you can't come back from it, but I'll tell you the pain's going to be fucking great. Why would you put yourself through that kind of... Oh, because remember, you were told you only have one life. You live it out and that's it. You don't get another chance. That is a religion. When someone tells you you only have one life, that's what I'm up against. But again, I can't change those people. They have their one life. We thank you for your service. All right. So now let's look at if people realize that cancer is life. Let me drink my coffee. If people realize that cancer is life, they wouldn't attack it. And when they use cells from an animal to make your food, and someone says, oh yeah, they're using cancer cells from a chicken or from a lamb or from a cow, it's still cruelty-free. And it's still life. Just because you see this big ball of ugly-looking cancer that someone was scooped out of their body doesn't mean that it's not viable. That's life. That was your next life. Or that was the replacement of your life. But that was life. And so, lab-created meat is made from cells of a chicken or a cow or a lamb or any other animal, and then you hear people say, oh yeah, they were using cancer cells. Okay. Who gives a fuck? It's cruelty-free. And maybe we should stop attacking cancer and just find a way to release it safely and effectively without using surgical ways or machines or herbs against it. It's like when someone dusts you with asbestos. That's really toxic. But that's what people do when they're taking the herbs against the life in their body. It's like they're crop dusting their body with asbestos. But it's not really, Jillian, because it's FDA approved. But you're doing the same thing. When you see the World Trade Center coming down in 9/11, and all that white ash came down on people. That was like an antibiotic. That was like an herb. That was elements, aggressive elements against the life below. And the lady, there's a black lady that was in one of the pictures, the famous pictures that were circulating at the time. Well, she finally died, I guess, of cervical cancer or some kind of cancer because she was exposed to all of that stuff from 9/11. And so what do you think taking all the tinctures and the herbs and the extracts and the detoxes and the pills and the powders and supplements do? It's like crop dusting life in your body. And eventually you'll die from old age because the body cannot come back because you keep crop dusting it with antibiotics, or you'll develop a cancer that you're going to attack anyways, and so then you're going to end up the same way. And so maybe we should stop attacking cancer and just find a way to release it safely and effectively without using surgical machines or surgical ways, machines or herbs. That's why you must understand my method, because that's the pathway to finally respecting your life and life in general. You don't attack life or surgically take it out. Cruelty-free life is the pathway to peace without the rest in peace. Cruelty-free life can't just be in one area. You can't be like, oh, I'm just going to eat lab-created animals, but I'm going to go get all this oncology and surgery and kick my kids to the herbalist. You can't play that. No. That's confusing everything. That's horrible. If you're going to be nice to animals, then be nice to yourself. Be nice to your kids. Animals shouldn't be above your kids and yourself. And you shouldn't be above the animals either. You shouldn't be like, I'm just going to do the J world. But then there's that transition. Biotech now has to come in. And this is where, I'm playing both sides now. I have to. It's a transition. Because I still need the collagen. Do I know if what they're creating, the lab creator, is going to have the collagen? We're still in that transition time. And so I'm just going to eat the meat that's given to me. I'm not going to go and see where it comes. I already know there's movies out there. I'm not going to traumatize myself. But I need to survive. But when they do develop fatty, collagen-filled, lab-created meat, I will go and get that. And I will, because that's what, so this is my request to biotech. Please develop collagen in a lab that's in a meat, that's not a supplement. I'm not trying to take supplements, but I want it in the lab-created foods that are cruelty-free, so that way I get the collagen in that form, that you are growing that piece of meat with all the things that are necessary, so I can make sure I have my face filled in, my arms and bodies and everything reinforced. I'm not trying to be fat-free, but, believe me, they're working on it, and I can't wait. And so, again, I'm straddling both worlds because my husband's a fisherman, so he sort of tortures bass when they do bass fishing. Okay. Remember, we're in a transition. You can't get away from the old world 100%. You have to transition off that. And it's going to take a lot of generations of people not only passing away, but also reconsidering how they look at life. Okay? If you want to be uncruel, you have to reconsider your politics, your religion, and your science dogmas. Regarding the food supply, biotech is replicating animal proteins so we don't have to enslave animals and put the fear of death in them. And I applaud that. Okay? Believe me, when I see the Facebook reels and someone puts like an animal cruelty thing when it comes to factory farming, I just have to go through it really fast because I don't want to look at it. I'm just scrolling past when I walk because that is traumatizing. Oh, believe me, I know and I understand and that just like we have human trafficking and people are enslaved by other humans. People are in domestic violence situations. They are cruel to each other in ways that you don't know. And you know that shit exists, but you can't stop it. You can't save it. You have to find a way to transition and hope the world can follow suit. And you hope your government will help you transition from that really fucked up world to a better world. And we're on that path. We are. But there's a lot of resistance to it. Okay, because of so many misconceptions, mischaracterizations, and resistance. So if you want to become civilized, free the fucking farm animals. Free the animals in the zoos, right? Unless they are injured, then I understand taming them. Hey, I get it. Okay, and people do have animals, wild, exotic animals as pets. Hey, well, that's fine. You take care of it and do whatever you do the best you can. Okay, relative to your belief system. I can still like people. I can still respect them. I can like what they have to offer. Doesn't mean I have to do what they do. And I can still put out my thoughts about stuff. It doesn't make them bad or wrong. It just says, this is how I'm defining my life. So that's the key thing about the J world, is understanding how you define your life without completely, well, you can't help but seem like you're coming off judgmental against somebody else. But when it comes to change, you're always going to challenge somebody else's lifestyle, belief systems, and whatever. And that's just inevitable. So be graceful about it, be gracious about it, be diplomatic about it, and understand that you still respect the people around you that feel differently. It may come off as disrespect because of how we've been trained to react to things, that finally when we realize it wasn't good for us or for humanity, and then we become so legalistic based upon our perception of it, okay, and become really aggressively cruel. And I know I was that way a few years ago. I've calmed down a bit, but I can still come off a little bit aggressive. But, you know, that's all part of the development and exploring how you're going to get the information across without completely offending people. But offensive, any kind of change is offensive no matter what. So it's just embracing that's going to be part of it, but not have it be so offensive. Because even the people that are dealing with shit, that are practicing their practices, they do want to save their own life. They just either too far gone, or they don't have the patience, or there's just some other things are going on. But believe me, everyone wants to save their own life, and they have their version of what saving their own life means. So it's not like they're bad or wrong. They just have to figure out what's the truth and what is the kind of truth that is acceptable to them that they can do. Because there is no one truth. There's many different truths with different intentions and obviously predictable outcomes. All right? Okay, so now it comes to human farming. Remember, initially, you're bred to have children. Okay, so this is for the women and the men, too. So the circumcision made the men hypersexual. Women were bred to be really deficient and beautiful, for the most part. And so when you're deficient and relatively beautiful, you'll be sexual and you'll be dropping eggs for a certain amount of time. So I started my period around 13 years old, 14, 13, which was the average, it was junior high. And some didn't start their period till they're 19 because they were on their way to being like kind of immortal. But then what they do, they go into the doctor, so they cause more deficiencies and cause trauma to then cause the hormones of sexuality to come up. And that's when they start dropping the eggs. So someone will actually go to the doctor to make sure they become fertile, because they that's what they're told, that to be healthy is to be fertile. Well, okay, I mean, it's all relative to the state of the condition of the body. And so since I released all my demons, if we didn't have all this crazy climate change where I could feel the heat and feel the dizziness and the vertigo and all the things that happen when you're going through a major frequency change, I probably wouldn't have had my period. Because the last time I had it was when my dog was dropping all of her crap and she died, and then there was frequency changes, and so I had the period around February, and then I just had my last one in June. But if we didn't have these frequency shifts, then I wouldn't have a period. There wouldn't be a need to drop an egg, because the egg is the new version of the new world. That's what eggs are. And so when you have girls that are constantly, not only are they deficient, but they're in diverse company, and the frequencies are changing like every season, that's why they drop eggs every month. And then let me read the rest of this. Remember, initially you were bred to have children for all the different human experimentation, which is why people's bodies started shutting down at 50 or after 50. The J world is flipping the script. The desire to be fertile. The desire is not to be fertile. Immortality is not about how many eggs you can drop. You only drop eggs when it's absolutely necessary, like a major climate shift or a catastrophic accident, but not because the seasons change or you're worshiping youth. Right? So even when these women are getting, taking all their herbs and their extracts and are drinking so much and have a hard charging lifestyle, they're having sex a lot, and they're also getting surgeries, oh yeah, you're going to have eggs drop everywhere. That's trauma to the body. Trauma causes fertility. Let me just write that down. Trauma equals fertility. So what's trauma for me? It's the fucking climate change. I have released all the demons. I'm not taking herbs, extracts, or detoxes, or pills, or powder supplements. I'm not going to get surgeries. I'm not doing anything against my body except eating food and releasing the demons. And pulling the crap out of my ass is not trauma. But if I were to go get a surgery right now or get into a car accident, or the climate shifts so aggressively where I feel it, then I will drop an egg. Trauma equals fertility. Wow. Wow. Can you imagine no one putting those two words together? See, that's the thing about developing ideas and understanding how things connect, is when you actually have less words in between words, and then you see correlation equals causation. The desire is not to be fertile in the J world. Immortality is not about how many eggs you can drop. You only drop eggs when it's absolutely necessary, like a major trauma, like a major climate shift, or a catastrophic accident, but not because the seasons change or you're worshiping youth. Maybe let's say this, like the pagans, like someone said that they get their period back then when the moon changed. So it was like, what, quarterly they had their period? So when there was a major shift in the atmosphere because the moon changes, I could see where an egg would drop. Okay, so you get your period 4 times a year, 3 times a year, whatever that is. So that potentially, but then even then, I know at this point, with everything going on, with all this climate change is going on so aggressively, even the seasons change, they're not going to make a difference because the seasons change all the time now, it seems. And so anyway, so the desire not to be fertile, okay, immortality is not about how many eggs you can drop. You only drop eggs when it's absolutely necessary, like a major climate shift or a catastrophic accident, but not because the seasons change, potentially though, or worshiping youth. But we know people worship youth all the time, so they're getting their plastic surgery and the Botox. And yeah, they're going to be dropping eggs because they're causing trauma to the body. Maturity without aging without aging out is the J world. So the J world, you want to be mature, but you don't want to be aging out. You want to have wisdom, but you're not dying in the process. Then you have the wisdom you can use, and it won't have to die with you. So the old world of human farming, because many eggs start to develop but die off before being ovulated. A woman goes through roughly 300,000 to 400,000 eggs in their reproductive years, but only ovulates 300 to 400 eggs. The average woman runs out of eggs and starts menopause around the age of 52. The age of 52. What the hell? Anyways, yeah. And so wow, that's like an octopus developing 300,000 eggs and then dies. Okay? So a woman going through 300,000 to 400,000 eggs in her reproductive years, but only ovulates when it actually drops 300 to 400 eggs. See, so then now you know you're being used as an animal. That's what the whole promoting the family is. You're being used, you're being human farming, literally human farming. And the zookeepers are the mayors. And the attendants are the law enforcement to keep the animals under control. Wow. That's the world you live in. That's all over the world. But we have now biotech is able to make life not only easier, but less cruel, but more cruel relative to which side of the world you stand on. I'm willing to use biotech to make my food lab-created cruelty-free, but I'm not willing to use biotech to attack life in my body, or take away substance, or starve me, or use machines on me. I know when to use biotech and not to cause trauma to my body to make me fertile. I am not using biotech for that. So that's what it means. You can't throw away the baby with the bathwater. That's what that term means. There's a reason for biotech. It doesn't mean you have to use it against the life of your body. You can use biotech to give you life to your body. And so I was showing you my legs yesterday, that there is no cellulite. I have the collagen, I have the muscle, I have the form, I have the smooth skin. I hardly have any hair on my legs. I think I could probably count the hairs on my leg. Okay? And so, Having just fat and muscle is not enough. You must have the collagen, the connectivity to connect all the things. Or else you have cottage cheese, because that's all the fat that is breaking through the collagen. That the collagen is wounding around your fat that's so tight that the actual fat is breaking through, and that's the cottage cheese. When the collagen cannot keep up with the fat, you get the cellulite. And so collagen is a protein structure. And when it comes to cellulite, it's responsible for essentially keeping fat where it belongs. It's almost like a protective band. If this band tightens too much because you have so much fat, fat can escape and rise up to the surface of the skin, causing what we know as cellulite. See, you see how they can pose it where it says like, oh, you have too much collagen, then your fat's going to come up. But on the other side of it, you can have too much fat and the fat comes up. So it's all, see, you have to look at how they position things, because there's always two sides of the way you look at it. But the way they look at it is that, see, that's so deceptive about the English language and the written word. If you're not discerning, you will read that as if it's almost like a protective band. If this band tightens too much, well, why would it tighten too much? See, when someone reads that and they say, oh, well, if the band tightens too much, it means I'm taking too much collagen, too much meat, right? Too much collagen. I got to lay off the collagen and have my regular diet besides the collagen. So no more meat and no more of the eggs. And they're looking up all the collagen foods. And they're like, oh, God, it's eggs, it's meat, it's pork, it's this and that, right? And so now you see where that can take a person. But really, you need the collagen, but it's the fat that is multiplying and multiplying. But why is that? They're like, oh God, it means I'm eating too much fat. So they lay off all the fat. They're in fat-free everything. Fat-free this, fat-free that. And that's where all the diets and all the detoxes and all that stuff come into play. Versus going into your alimentary canal and pulling out the programming that's causing the body to basically be stopped up and super implode. All right? So just because it says this, if this band tightens too much, fat can escape and rise up to the surface of the skin, cause what we know as cellulite, doesn't mean that you lay off the collagen or become fat-free. Hello, Daniel. And so then you have to realize that you have to release the excess program that's causing a lot of the body to hold on to fat and other things that's causing you to be hormonally imbalanced. Okay? So then you see what happens in the Hollywood world. All right, now you're seeing with Khloe Kardashian getting all skinny and working out. You're seeing Jennifer Aniston all working out. A lot of Jessica Simpson, other people. All right, so Jessica Simpson is developing a condition for a diet suddenly. She's promoting young girls and women to starve themselves. So they look sexual and they look skinny and emaciated like the 1960s. That is the depopulation agenda. And mothers teach this to their children. Not only are they taking away food, because not only food allergies, because they want them to look skinny and sexual. Because that's the mother's desire. Their kid is popular and will get married off and get her off her hands. So then this other guy, whoever, can take her on. But then you know that there's like 90% divorce rate out there. Why do I say 90%? Because how many single mothers out there? They had a bunch of kids. Fathers aren't around because you think he's going to want to take care of 50 million kids? Everyone's all sexualized. She gets pregnant. Yeah. That's a recipe for disaster. Believe me, there is no Prince Charming mommies out there. When you have your daughters that are hot looking and everything, look at yourself, and you yourself is single. You have 5 kids, 3 kids, or you've been single and you were married and you got divorced, and maybe this is your 3rd husband, 2nd husband. But if you're a single mom and you have a hot daughter, she's gonna end up just like you. Is that really where you want your daughter to go? You know how this shit works. The apple does not fall far from the tree. And so Jessica is developing a condition for a diet suddenly. She is promoting young girls and women to starve themselves. This is the depopulation agenda. And mothers teach this to their children. She doesn't have enough adipose tissue to protect her vital organs. She probably has food intolerances. This is sad. This was promoted in the 1960s and 50s, but Marilyn Monroe was the bigger version of the sexualized sex bomb. But the icons after Marilyn Monroe and all that voluptuous stuff became skinnier and skinnier and skinnier. So really, when you think about it, Marilyn Monroe, if she wasn't so sexual, she would actually be a healthy prototype. And Raquel Welch. But what happened was they took that voluptuousness and took the substance away and turned them into someone like the Kate Mosses and the Twiggies. Okay? So the icons became skinnier and skinnier and skinnier and skinnier. All right? All right. Block. Yeah. And so, yeah. And so now you see why people pass away, because they don't have the proper fats, the proper collagen. They're always about vegetables, only vegetables. And they have a crappy release process, and they attack the life in their body with herbs and extracts and machines, and they don't condition their body to handle climate change. So now you see why people pass away. No matter what kind of food they eat, as they get older, they become tunneled and intolerant, and they can't deal with life literally. They have not been conditioned to evolve with life. But some cultures might live long relative to other cultures, but they still are nutritionally deficient. Okay, so you see that in the Japanese culture, there really isn't a lot of milk. They weren't raised with milk. Okay, so it's mostly like the soy proteins and the fish and the soups, like the miso soup and the tofu, which is the soy proteins, and the vegetables and the rice. And so it may be a little bit of meat, like probably lean meat, a little bit of fat, not a lot of fat. And so the Japanese culture, they might have lived to be like 80 or 90 or 100, but that's still not long enough. That's still really short. But relative to some other cultures that have a crappy release process, right? But they were healthier when they were younger, but when they were eating the foods that had the higher fat that you need, the collagen, the higher fat, like the Mexican foods are actually really healthy. The tripe, oh my God, that's the collagen that you need. The tripe, the beans and rice. They don't really need jalapenos, but that's, whatever. But the salsa, it doesn't have to be a hot, spicy salsa. Mexican food, when you minus all the spicy stuff, is really an amazing full meal that is so like life-giving. But when you have a crappy release process and you're attacking your life with remedies and surgeries and all the things that are attacking life with the herbs and the extracts, then they're developing more demons within. And that's why people, and maybe in the Hispanic culture, get bigger and bigger and bigger, because they're not releasing the demons. But they have the great amount, they have the awesome food. The food is what amazing in the Mexican culture, but they don't release the demons. All right? And you look at the Indian culture, the Hindu culture. They don't eat, they only use the milk for rituals. But do they drink milk? I don't see that. They use the milk for rituals, to wash their face in, to wash stuff in. They don't eat the cows, right? Because they worship the cows. They ferment the milk, so they have the mango lastings with the yogurt. They have so much turmeric, so much curry, so aggressively causing more demons to be developed, because it's all antibiotic. So it's a positive and negative, and then you have more offspring. That's cannibalizing the body, and then the aging process is aggressive. I mean, if you've been to India, some of you have been to India, you've seen people are sitting in ashes and are really skinny, and they're shamans or yogis, or there's so much tantric sex, so much sexuality, because of all of those herbs causing that positive negative, that fornication at the micro level and then at the macro level. And then you have China. China, there's not a lot of milk. And I've eaten Chinese food in the southern, all the dim sum. I didn't get any milk when I was there. I was eating just the dumplings and the vegetables and a little bit of the meat and the rice paper that's, made into the dumplings. And then I went to Beijing, and it was like Panda Express, Manchurian food. It was this heavy sauces. Yeah, it was steamed fish, but it was like the chicken with either breading around it, and it was in heavy sauces, dark sauces, hoisin sauce, fish sauce, soy sauce. But I didn't see any milk on the table. If there was, maybe it was a little bit of ice cream at the end. And you see what's going on. There's a billion people in China, but the population is declining. And then you think about the German food and English food. English food, it's probably Scottish food, all the Northern European food, heavy, it's good. It's probably milk, yes. Meat, yes. It's substantial food. It's amazing food. It's the exotic foods that are really less in nutrition. So when I'm in California and I'm going to all the restaurants in San Francisco, and it's all like this hybrid fusion Asian, fusion Cuban, and it's all, done. It's totally nutritionally deficient. Because then you got all the organic people, all the vegan and vegetarians, and all the milk-free and animal-free products. And so, yeah, in a slower frequency, potentially, all that organic, skinny yoga and all that stuff, that whole lifestyle. Then you have, yes, Hollywood. And you have all the influencers, the gurus, the yogis, the fear against GMO. And then you see people in California really deficient or overly efficient. They have so much substance because they have a shitty-ass release process. All right? So now you have to realize that when you think about it, you need the meat, milk, cheese, and eggs, fruits and vegetables, beans and rice. You don't need so many vegetables. You need a little bit of fruit. Yeah, I have fruit juice. I have rice. I have spaghetti. And I have steak. I had a marbleized steak. Oh, it was so good. I have the pork. I have the cream. I have cereal. But I don't need a lot of vegetables. I don't need to. In this environment, I need more of the substance to handle this freaking energy conversion. I need more of the body so I can handle that energy conversion, so I can prolong my life and potentially live indefinitely. What we call biophysical terrestrial immortality. Not spiritual immortality where you let your body go to shit and let your soul go float off and look for another body to inhabit. But I'm talking about biophysical terrestrial immortality. And you have to pay your dues because a lot of people are either really deficient because they're born deficient, or they've done so much trauma to themselves not knowing that they could have gotten a second chance at life. Again, the less trauma you have to your body, the easier it will be for you to get to the next level when you choose to. And so you don't want to be fertile. So those that have a bunch of kids, you've had a lot of trauma to your body. Those that advocate having kids want trauma to their body. I don't want kids. I don't want trauma to my body. I have enough of it. Just make sure that my marriage stays okay, stays fine. But I mean, it's fine. The marriage I have is great. But I'll tell you, some people out there have marriages where they have specific requirements. And if that was the case, I wouldn't be in a marriage where they have specific requirements. No fucking way. I don't want trauma to my body in any way, shape, or form. I want to lessen the trauma to my body. But people like to advocate more trauma to their body, mind, and spirit because they believe, yes, in the religious beliefs, political beliefs, and scientific beliefs of not only fertility, but they think that's just the way life is that they just have to find trauma, do trauma, and believe in trauma. Even at the expense of themselves. Even when they say they promote life, when they really don't. And so this is when I'm kind to myself. When you think about I'm finally kind to myself. I don't expect people out there to act like what I would think a friend is, okay? Really, when you think about it, I'm in a marriage that is a formalized contract that has a built-in friendship, a built-in survivability, platform, and a built-in companionship. And it's formalized. We signed on the dotted line. We have rules around it. There's laws around it, financial laws, marital laws, and all of that. And so that is the kind of friendship I want, where everyone understands their part in that contract. There's expectations, and there's also a discussion every so often. And so what I'm a friend to myself. I banter back and forth, so I consider everyone that interacts with me, that chooses to interact with me, a friend to me. And if they don't interact with me, that's fine. Are they a friend? Acquaintances, I guess, same kind of thing. I mean, a friend is supposed to be above acquaintance. When you interact with someone as a choice, but then even if they don't interact with you and you interact with them, you could say, I could consider someone a friend on Facebook because I like their stuff. Right? But they would never like my stuff. They wouldn't consider merely me as a friend, more of an acquaintance. But am I upset with that? No. Because everyone has their version of what friends are. And so everyone defines what their friends are. And so then be a friend to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Allow yourself to suffer a little bit so you can survive. Stop traumatizing yourself. Then you don't have to feel the need to prove for other people they like you. And so when someone says on their Facebook, prove to me that you're my friend by knowing something that no one else would know about me or you or whatever. You know, stop putting your friends on. Stop putting your friends on the spot. Real friends don't challenge. Real friends don't challenge real friends to know something about you. Real friends don't put their friends on the spot. Real friends don't have to prove shit to anyone. Be a friend to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Allow yourself to suffer a little bit so you can survive. Stop traumatizing yourself. Then you don't have to feel like you need to prove from other people that they like you or a real friend, because you become a real friend to yourself. Then there's nothing anyone has to prove to you, because you're secure in yourself, and you will naturally gravitate towards the people that you are aligned with the most. But you don't force that alignment. Oh, believe me, I tried to force alignment. But then I still had to interact with people. And then I was just like, I don't want to be forced to align with anyone. If we naturally are aligned, we'll get together and we'll interact with each other. Sometimes, and when you have husbands and wives and they have different friends and different ways of interacting, it doesn't mean you have to be friends with everybody, in their world. You don't know. And so everybody's free to be whatever. They don't have to tolerate you. You don't tolerate them. And everyone's just free. But that was difficult, trying to work with that, because we have been told that you're supposed to have a bunch of friends. You're supposed to go hang out with a bunch of people all the time. You're supposed to interact and socialize all the time, even at the detriment of yourself and your body, mind, and spirit. And so that was a programming that I had to go and let go, and up against other people's programming that's the world that they think is the right world. And when people think that you're crazy or weird because you're like, okay, now I got to redefine what things are, that's leaving a world that wants you to be stuck in that way of life. And it could be deadly, that way of life. But you have to save yourself. That's the thing. That's the hardest part about the J world, is you having to save yourself from your friends and family that want to keep pulling you back in the life that was killing you. Okay? And so that's part of the J world. That's like probably 90% of the J world. Once you finally are on your own and you can actually handle being on your own, then you have the freedom to take care of yourself. And no one's going to be in your ear whispering that you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, scaring you with fears and this and that. When you finally are on your own and you can handle being on your own, even if it's intellectually and emotionally, then you have the freedom to physically take care of yourself, because no one is in your ear. No one is telling you, do this, do that, you should do this, you should do that. You have the freedom to do it on your own. And if you make a mistake somewhere, no one's saying, "Hey, see, I told you so." Then you go and correct that mistake, and no one's there to say, "Oh God, look, I told you so." Because it wasn't really a mistake, it's just a setback or something was going on. But you recovered and you redirected and found a way. But that's the thing about freedom, okay? Is that you're not relying on somebody else to know everything about you and to prove that they like you, is that they know everything about you. I don't play that game. If we're friends, we're naturally going to connect. If we're not friends, we're not going to connect. If we're not friends, we're not going to connect. That's just that's the bottom line. You can't force shit. But when you're married, that's difficult because your spouse may have different friends than you. Doesn't mean you have to be friends with them. You can be polite to them, respect them, but doesn't mean you're going to align with them. And that's okay. That's the part of being married that's difficult for people, is they get caught up in their spouse's world. And so knowing when to separate yourself, knowing when to come together when you need to, that's the defined life. That's the power that you will have to define your life, not based upon somebody else's expectations. And you saw my struggle with that. Finally, my husband and I, he does whatever. He can go hang out with his friends and go boating and go fishing and do whatever he wants. I don't care. Do whatever you want. And I'm okay with being on my own. And I don't need to go and hang out with other people to be like, oh, okay, if he's out, then I should be out too. Nah. This is where I use the time to take care of myself, to be on my own. And he's on the truck a lot, so I have a lot of time to be on my own and think about stuff. That's my freedom, is defining my own life. And he has the freedom to live his life and define it however he chooses, as long as we live within the parameters of our formalized contract of a marriage. So then you become secure in yourself and you develop your own world. And then your successes are not based upon his successes. You have your own successes in your own world, your own life, and you find a way to come together. But I don't have to be in his world all the time. He doesn't have to be in my world all the time. Believe me. He doesn't want to be in the J world, and I don't want to be, sitting in his world all the time. We have that maturity to have our own life and also have a foundation to work from. And that's power, that's freedom, that's what's going to keep our marriage together. It's when people want to suck the life out of somebody else. Either you destroy them physically or you spiritually capture them and make them live every way that you want to live. And that's why people divorce. Because that person has no freedom to do what they need to do to take care of themselves. In body, mind, and spirit. Okay. So you're seeing the lessons that I've been learning. You've watched me deal with stuff. Okay. Believe me, it wasn't easy. Okay. Collagen. To not only be heart healthy, but strengthen your immune system. Can you handle the evolution? You can't get the healthy collagen from leafy greens or soy because look at the vegans and vegetarians. They're either very skinny or have a lot of fat, but hardly any collagen because they now are switching to being a vegan vegetarian because they have obesity issues. That's not the issue. The issue is your release process. You still need the collagen and the meat and the milk and the cheese and the eggs, but you also have to release the demons. All right? And so you need the meats, you need the organs. Biotech will help you out so you don't have to torture animals to do that. And I'm not saying take supplements. I'm saying that they're going to make lab-created meat and lab-created collagen and lab-created milk. And so I'll just go through this pretty quick and then go through there's the next section after this is going to be pretty aggressive. So let me just get through this. So when you resist and you haven't found the opposite outcome of your intention, you've accepted whatever it is you're resisting. Okay, so when you're resisting vaccines, you're accepting the vaccines. When you're resisting jelly juice, you're accepting jelly juice. And so then you have to figure out that your resistance to something doesn't have to mean that you're accepting it as long as you can articulate why you're resisting it. And so, okay, so now there's a condition on that, right? It's not just a blank, oh, resistance is this. No, when I question something, people can look at it as resistance. So as long as I can explain why I am not going to go down the direction, like I said, the Bible or politics, religion, science in this terrestrial world of depopulation, because the outcome is promoting death. And so why I don't adopt your politics, your religion, or your scientific dogma is because the opposite outcome that I'm intending is to stay alive, not end up being absolved through surgeries, medicine, and palliative care, and somebody doing last rites, okay? So the outcome that I'm coming from is life. Your outcome that you're coming from is you want to die someday. We're not the same, all right? So you let the psychology manipulate you into resisting something that will destroy you no matter what. That is the anti-V, pro-V world. That's the anti-chemtrails, pro-chemtrails world. That's the anti-GMO, pro-GMO world. No matter what, you're resisting whatever, you're not going to survive. All right? So whether you do or not do, whatever you're resisting, it will still destroy you because you have been psychologically manipulated. When you've accepted death as an outcome, regardless, your resistance against whatever is 100% futile. When you actually promote life, you'll stop resisting what you think is going to kill you, because you'll know the laws not believe all the fucked up stories. And that's in all the activist world. 99.99% of the world out there believes everyone should die someday. And they will make it happen for themselves and their followers. So what the hell are you resisting, people in the politics, religion, and science world? When you already expect to pass away and you're so afraid of so many different things, why would you be afraid of it if you already expect to pass away? Because you know that if God is going to take you, he's going to take you. It was meant to be, right? So you say through your politics, your religion, and your science dogmas, if it was meant to be, it was meant to be, right? So if you already believe in death, what the fuck are you resisting in your activism? And so then you have to change the way you even look at what life and death is. And how many people are going to do that? No, they're going to resist themselves out of existence because they won't re-examine their lifestyle, their belief systems, their politics, their religion, their science dogmas. And so yesterday I could say some pretty aggressive things, and I did, because there was high frequencies yesterday. And so when I showed my husband the picture on the wall, he's like, oh, it was just because of a small nail. Okay, that small nail that he used, but why would he use a small nail in a picture like that? But hey, whatever. But in a lower frequency world, would that have happened? But we're in a high frequency world. So that picture, out of all the pictures that are in our, even though that may have weakened, but in a lower frequency world, it would have probably stayed on the wall. Okay, and so we all know things happen and all that stuff. And so, yeah, and I've felt stuff, I've seen stuff, I've experienced stuff during this climate shift. And you've seen the orbs around me certain times, even a few months ago, when they were really aggressive. I had a few orbs the other day that were coming through really quickly. But high frequencies, the dead will contact the living. Some people are not prepared for their retribution. Protect yourself, release the demons. I know when the frequencies change so aggressively and the dead are contacting me that even my refrigerator goes haywire. It's finally fixed, but it took me a few times. I had to actually let it not only defrost at the bottom and ice was coming out at the bottom, but I had to let it go up to all the way to 70 or 80 degrees inside the fridge. I tried to let it go down to like maybe 50 or 60. No, it still wanted to go and be haywire. So I had to let it sit and let everything just come to final, like just an equilibrium. And I couldn't unplug it because it's backed up against the wall. And so I had to let it go all the way down to be hot inside. And then I turned it on and then it finally got fixed. Okay. And so I know when frequencies change so aggressively and the dead are contacting me, even my refrigerator goes haywire. Pictures fall, people get diagnosable conditions or become so entrenched in their politics or religion and science, they become even more sexual. Watch your Facebook, everyone. Everything is in plain sight. Even the dead can destroy the living because people hold so much damage within and they allow the deadly spirits to control them and possess them. And you see people are hungry for power. And I'm not saying go get a shaman and do an exorcist on someone. I'm not saying take a bunch of aggressive energy drinks or aggressive drinks that have stuff in it to go and release the demons. No, that's not what I'm promoting. My method is a safe and effective way, if you can get past all the different stigmas, to release the demons without hurting yourself, without destroying yourself, and you're eating at the same time all the food in the food supply. And so, yeah, even the dead can destroy the living because people hold so much damage within them and they allow the deadly spirits to control them and possess them. And you see people are hungry for power. Oh yeah, look on your Facebook. Look on your Facebook. Why do you think children are out of control? Why do you think they're giving you options to delivery services so you don't get in the way of someone who has allowed their demons to control them and become out of control? That's why the medical and the surgical system exists, because doctors are allowed to cut out the evil spirits. But then it causes the body to be even more traumatized and compromised. Then the evil spirits metastasize, die suddenly, or a major deterioration. Herbs and remedies make spirits stronger and deadlier. So when you're doing all the ayahuasca, you're making all those spirits inside you stronger and deadlier. When you're doing so much cannabis and all the different drugs, whether it's prescription or over-the-counter or whatever, or illicit, you're making those spirits, those demons, stronger. When you're playing with the spirit world, using different devices, conjuring them up, you're making them deadlier and stronger. The world is not what you think. Be careful of the sexually aggressive hot girls in our society. See, this is where men and women need to watch themselves and each other on what they're promoting and what they're worshiping. Be careful of the sexually aggressive hot girls in our society. They are made to literally suck the life out of the weak men. Nothing is by accident. That's why the porn industry and the sexual revolution happened in the 1960s, because that was the sexualizing of the human race to then cause aggressive, pleasurable depopulation. All right? I'm not puritanical, far from it, but I understand the programming. That's why the 1960s was a major turning point. The weaponization of beauty and family and the medical system and holistic system causing more trauma. And people can't get ahead, not when they are surrounded by people who have been programmed that way. Your friends, your family, your mom, and your dad all have been programmed that way. That's why the J world is a minority, because once you face that demon, you will literally stop selling sex and beauty on the internet. You will stop advocating people cause trauma to themselves. You will look like and sound like a Puritan. Again, I'm not a Puritan. I'm married, so what do you think happens in a marriage? But I even keep that to a certain kind of dull roar, because I don't want it to destroy me, and I don't want to destroy him. I'm not trying to destroy my husband. Just because I'm married doesn't mean I want to destroy him. Absolutely not. But that's what marriage is. In a lot of ways, it's a mutually assured destruction. Oh my God. Let me write that down. Marriage can be a mutually assured destruction. But I will not allow my husband to destroy me. And I will not intend to destroy him. Okay? And so you will look and sound like a Puritan. Ironic, isn't it? That was literally the birth of America, was from the Puritans. But even the Puritans became impure, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And now you see how the compromise, even those who claim they are trying to take America back, having so many children, is the issue. So many children with trauma to their body, mind, and spirit, why we are in this situation. You don't take this country back as far as America. It's already gone. It's already gone. Now you have to take your personal life back. Some of you are not equipped to do that. You are still too traumatized by old destructive relationships, and you have major hormonal imbalances. And you are dropping platitudes of survivability because somebody wronged you around the love and sex. You are still so deep in trauma that even your religion can't save you. They can only give you absolution, because that's why that's what you're looking for. You're not looking for change or evolve. I can't save you. Okay. The J world can't save people who are too far gone. I could only observe and hope that some seeds of my information will reach you if you have the intellect to be reached. And some of you are in third world countries and you are just coming up into this information, and you have been taught around you to use shamans and herbs and extracts, and that hot women, like I see in some of these third world countries, they have these girls with big boobs as their profile pic. That's how much they worship that type of corruption. Is they put women who are scantily clad as their profile pic. And they have all these women who are scantily clad, like porn stars, in their profiles, yes, like in their friends list, but also all over their posts on their Facebook. That's the destruction of mankind, is through those types of imagery, and then that's where the violence against women happen, because we have used women as objects. And that's what the third world is going to come up against. They're going to be dealing with that, because that's part of the evolution process. It's finally breeding that kind of not only corruption, but violence out of the population. And that's difficult. Not saying you become so puritanical and you destroy people because of that. It has to be, people have to individually release those demons that are causing them to think that way and also act that way. And that's not something you can force on somebody. You can't intellectualize destruction and fertility out of somebody. They have to physically want to be a whole person and not advocate so much fertility that they then turn into something that is destructive to other people and to themselves. And That's a new concept outside of the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 2000s. That's why people don't like me, because they've been trained in that world. That is their world. That's what a lot of marriages are based on, is that. And they turn into domestic violence, and then people become destructive to each other. And so, I can't save you. The J world can't save people who are too far gone. I could only observe and hope that some seeds of my information will reach you if you have the intellect to be reached. Again, the third world is going to be coming up against that. And you see the third world with all of their porn pics of girls with big boobs and scantily clad worshiping the sex. Oh, it's going to be interesting to watch. But again, the temptations of money, power, and wealth and social capital is far more lucrative than realizing how much of that addiction is going to destroy you. Good luck. All of you will need it, of course. Remember, your sperm and your eggs are you. When you produce so much sperm and so many eggs, you are taking pieces of yourself and releasing them. And so when men and women, when men are around beautiful women, they become weak in so many different ways. Oh yeah, you see men lose their minds over a girl. They give up their body, their mind, their spirit, their money. They give up everything for these beautiful girls. And these beautiful girls are like sirens, and they're sucking the life out of them and trying to control them at the same time. Okay, so during climate change, women drop so many eggs, and then they get menopausal, deteriorate, lose collagen, and all under the influence of politics, religion, and science. And so I only drop a few eggs when the climate shifts. And there was 3 months between my period. And you know, predatory men out there will be looking for someone to procreate with. Be careful of predatory men and women. They will sell you sex, love, and beauty and image. Why? Because they can, siphoning off your resources. They are selling you something. You better figure out what it is. And you better figure it out fast. They ain't selling you life. If they are not selling you sex, love, and an image, they will sell you absolution through their tinctures, remedies, and surgeries. That's the destruction of mankind. And people don't even know it. That's the depopulation agenda. We're not doing World War II again. Now it's through pleasure and addiction. Okay? And through family. Once you know this, you can't unknow it. Which is why people don't like me. Which is why the spirits don't like me. Now you see the world for what it is, and it's painful. This is why I stand alone. This is also why it must be necessary to be on your own. Once you discover what's going on, you really can't go back. Again, I'm not trying to convert you. I just want you to be aware of how the world operates. Everything is in plain sight. Everyone deserves a chance in the matter. Okay. Everyone deserves a chance in the matter. I mean everyone. Thanks, Daniel. I'm just getting better at explaining it and observing what I observe. And so it doesn't mean that you destroy beautiful women. You don't want to do that. You don't want to go and bully beautiful women or sexual women. You don't want to even bully mothers that have a bunch of kids. You want to understand that they came from a programming, that we're in the process of releasing that programming, and you just be the representation that life isn't about just sex and drugs and rock and roll and having a bunch of kids and then being so pissed off about your exes and your old loves. It's now, how are you going to be a representation so the mother and the father can build themselves up, build their children up, and not cause more trauma, to cause more fertility in the daughters and the sons, in anyone. How do you get away from the trauma? And there's going to be so many temptations for trauma, whether it's high adrenaline lifestyles or drugs, or, beautiful people that will encourage you to have so much of the crazy sexual energy that then you become addicted. Okay? I mean, I'll tell you, I'm married, but I'll tell you, I don't have to have all the things that are in a marriage. I mean, I can live without almost everything except for food. But I also can straddle both worlds because, again, it's not about just foregoing the old world. You have to learn how to transition and acknowledge what you are participating in at a minimal level. And then you're promoting then the pathway where eventually we don't want to have cruelty in anything. We don't want to induce and purposely develop trauma in our children when it comes to the surgical system or the drugs or all the alcohol or all the fighting and all the bullying. That's playground trauma. Daniel says, the biggest program I ever get is the white man's history book. And mind you, I am white man and still make me sick of the identity that the country was built on. Yeah, but it had to come from somewhere, Daniel. I mean, when you look at every one of us was a child, right? We had to go through the trauma of our parents raising us, and they made mistakes. They didn't know everything. Even the government made mistakes, or was it a mistake? Who knows? But everyone has made mistakes in the years in their infancy, in their immaturity. Okay, now you take what now you take what the foundation that you came from and evolve it. Now we can look back and say, okay, shit happened this way. We did some horrible things to people. Now, how do we go and redirect? How do we go and make it right for ourselves? It's not what we do. What I do is not going to be right for everybody. Okay, but I could show people that you can redefine yourself if you want. That there is a pathway to redefinition. That the programming that you were born under, that you were given and forced onto you as a child, doesn't have to be the programming that you end up with, that you die with. But again, it's a transition. And it's a painful transition to face those demons. Oh, believe me, I faced them all on fucking Facebook. I even wrote part of it in my book. The demons that I was facing and dealing with. Okay, some of it's not even your fault. You were just acting out as a kid because of certain programming. And then you don't realize that some of that stuff could color where you're going as far as occupation, but it doesn't really have to. Because there's only one occupation out there. There's so many ways to make money out there in the world. There isn't just one way. But we all came from some crazy ass programming. Some of us are going to be pigeonholed in things because the programming was so intense that it caused a permanent record, and people are stigmatized against certain permanent records. And so, yeah, some people are stuck with that, and that sucks. And so then you hope that when they change their ways, it's worth it to them having that on their back. But again, it's going to take time. I mean, if you were a child predator and you ended up doing the J world and you released those demons and you were convicted of child predation and that's on your record forever, and you're like, oh shit, how am I going to fucking live with this? How am I going to live this down? Well, maybe if you can live indefinitely and you release those demons and you work in a place and you just pay your bills and you become a functioning member of society, and let's say 100 years down the road, when you've proven that all of that predation has been bred out of you, you release those demons, that could potentially get off your record. That you could actually develop legislation for those that were convicted 100 years ago of something that was so aggressive against society, and now you've changed. But time is what's going to be on your side. Time. But you have to put in the time to release those demons. That's the thing that I want to give people, a way out of all of that crap that someone has used as a tool to control them. When people bring up your past, they do that to control you and shut you up. But time is what's going to be on your side. So when you have criminal records and different records that, you're ashamed of or whatever, you got to now understand the J world. Find a career or find something that's going to be under the radar, and you just do your whatever it is you got to do. And then 100 years from now, then it's time to petition the government to say, okay, we're going to seal those records or take them off because you have shown that you can release those demons. And we've proven that in the J world, you can release those demons of destruction, of predation, of serial killing. I mean, I'm sure if you're a serial killer, you're going to be in jail. You wouldn't be allowed to go and rehabilitate yourself. The government's going to rehabilitate you. But if you've done things that are sexual against people, that it's on your permanent record, you have a chance to release those demons. And then maybe 100 years from now, we can petition and legislation to get it off your record so that it does not follow you forever as a stigma. That you have not only paid your dues, but you have actually released those demons, and you've proven it. Because you've lived now 100 years later, and you haven't victimized anyone. You're a functioning member of society, paying your taxes, paying your bills. You're not an addict. You're not a predator with anything. You are following all the laws. You deserve to have that past be wiped clean. And that's going to take time. Nothing is instantaneous. Nothing is. That's That is the foundation of the J world, that this is not a cure. This is not a remedy. This is now a way of life. And it's not doing J juice. It's releasing those demons and facing those demons and not trying to run away from them. And that this way is not the only way. Some people cannot face those demons. It's just, the pain is too great. They're too compromised. Too much trauma to their body, their mind, and their spirit. And you still love them anyways, and like them and respect them, and not bully them. But realize we all came from so much aggressive, traumatic programming. And now it's time to release the demons in a safe and effective way that is also legal. And that you're not overstepping your boundaries with anyone. You just take care of yourself. Oh, shit. Huh. Anyways. All right. That's what I offer the world. And so thank you, Daniel Johnson, for your participation in this. Thank you. I appreciate that. Now just be representation. Do whatever you have to do, whatever it is. Doesn't mean my way is the only way. Find what works for you. And good luck. All right, guys. Bye.